Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and 99.999% Quindy, with a tiny dash of Justin and John. How are you all? How are you all today? It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Halfway to the weekend. You always love it when I like say how much of the show is Quindy. Like, I really have to come up with some good analogies, but, like, it's morning. Yes, finger hearts. Total finger hearts. Awesome. Whee! There we are. You missed all this one, Cursed. You should totally go and, like, watch some of it. We have some interesting color theory stuff we talk about, as well as, like, the white hair and stuff like that. See, and I am more of a morning person, but, like, it's like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., like 1 p.m. So yeah, that's my like top time is probably around there. Kiddo update, yeah. Yay! Good. Limpets are not what kiddos should be. At least not when they're not usually like that. Yes, I'm very glad that the kiddo is better. Yay, kiddo. And also yay, Korniko getting some sleep, right? I found the Whimsical Stitches book, Korniko, and I ordered it. Because it looks like it might have, like, a sheep, and I wanted to make a sheep specifically since I'm getting a herding puppy. So I'm going to look at it and see if it's something that I think I could do to make toys for a puppy. For a baby puppy, it's a lot easier. Like, once they get big, it's harder if they might chew through toys, right? But when they're a baby puppy and they don't have their adult teeth yet, a soft toy is probably fine. So yeah, so I want to make since I'm getting a shepherd, I want to make a sheep, and I figure a round sheep would be pretty easy. Oh, probably maybe, Quindy. Happy jelly-filled donut day. I prefer Boston cream, thank you. If I'm gonna donut, which I don't really, but you know, I tend to scone rather than donut. Kevlar sheep. No. Actually, using ballistic nylon can backfire on you for dog toys. I have to share this because you may not think about this. But a lot of backpacks, like heavy-duty backpacks are woven of ballistic nylon as well right now. And hiking gear and stuff like that. So what happened with our old dog Thorn, who was a devil, is that because he was a power chewer, he would go through everything. Like, he would take those rubber tires and trip and just rip them up. This dog was strong, and he had massive, like, really strong jaws. So we got him ballistic nylon toys. They lasted a little longer. But he chewed up Zach's ballistic nylon backpack. So be aware that whatever material you use for your dog toys is going to train your dog that material is for them. And if it's the same sort of thing that you're using in other stuff, you may want to do something, maybe give it a different scent or something where you can train your dog that way. Because otherwise it can backfire. Oh, of course. Yeah, kitties hate meds. I had to give Katie's kitty. She had a cancer kitty, and I had to give her kitty meds. And that was pretty hellish. That was when I was staying with her after the divorce. But yeah, it was like... kitties do not like meds. I mean, puppies don't either. But kitties have no compunction about, like, using their claws to keep from having said meds. Darn it! My big base, made the mistake of putting my big base flat on the glass, and now it's annoying. There. Awesome. Speaking of that, I seem to have missed my palette this morning, so I should probably go get it. Thicker yarn and a bigger hook. I do have, I did order a big, thick, like, wonky yarn, and I did order hooks. I don't know what a big hook is as far as sizing goes, though, Korniko. 1 second, gotta get palette. So, like, what size hook is a big hook? I have no idea. Total noob. Hey, if I do this, y'all can watch me start a total noob at a hobby. Just like, you know, people, start painting as a total noob. And I can draw correlations. Oh, thankfully he doesn't use his claws. That's a good kiddo. This kid I usually wouldn't, but she would like really like, she would be like just short of it. I did get a couple of claw marks from her when she just got very upset. Because sometimes it took several tries to get the pills down her throat, and so when it was like fast and easy, then it would just happen. And she wouldn't do it to her owner. It's just that I was, I'm just some chick staying with her. I'm not her person. So it was hard. It was hard to pill somebody else's kiddo. All right, let's mix up some highlights. We're going to do NMM today, and I'm going to do the flat stuff, because the flat stuff, people look at it and they're not sure how to treat it, but it's actually one of the easiest things to do in NMM, because you're really, at that point, almost not doing anything realistic. You're just kind of trying to make it look right. And the rules for making it look right are very, very easy. 9 millimeters. That's right, because you're in metrics, and sometimes I think, like I read that knitting needles like run in both like sizing, because over here we're scared of the metric system, and millimeters for on the other side of the pond, so to speak. If he would wear little hats, he would be perfect. We are scared of the metric system. Let's face it. Like, let's just face our fear here and get over ourselves, huh? I'm a classic Anne today. Be ready. Be ready. I'm feeling irreverent. Also, like, I ran into a psychological analysis tool last night. I'm into that, by the way. I'm always into figuring out how I can do my life better. But I ran into something that apparently has been around for decades and nobody told me about it. And so now I'm like both elated because this appears to be a really cool thing that I can now like read about, and pissed because nobody ever told me to take this analysis assessment, proficiency assessment thing. Apparently it's really good for helping kids in high school like figure out like what their strengths are, so that they can, actually not end up doing what I did, which was, trying to do an about face in the middle of college. So it's called the Clifton Strengths Assessment for those who are curious. And I ran into it in a writing book, actually, because there's a writer out there writing books who uses it, like intensely uses it. But it seems to be very interesting. I'm always interested in personality assessment tests because they have helped me kind of figure out like what I'm good at over the years. The wool should have a recommended size on the wrapping. Interesting. Okay, I'll look. I'm total noob. Total noob. Total noob. Yeah, like when I looked at crochet hooks online, there was a set of them that came with all different sizes. I guess you could do different things with the different sizes, right? Like depending on how little and chintzy you wanted or how big and clunky you wanted. But yeah, total noob. Total noob. You can all watch me be a noob. But usually what I do when I am a noob is, one, I try to find a good book to read that will explain things to me clearly. And sometimes you have to read the reviews to find those, because like there are some books that are highly reviewed, but then you read the comments and people are like, this is great, but she drops out some of the steps that are really necessary and I wish she didn't do that, that kind of thing. Then that's probably not the book for somebody like me. But then I also like to ask a lot of questions. Kariniko is noticing this. Teensy ones for lace. Great big ones for fluffy Afghans and sweaters. Oh, yeah. I mean, okay, let's look at me, right? I'm high drive. I love to learn new things. And I love to get good at new things by analyzing and asking lots of questions so that I can make things that I really love. Like, this is what's motivated me in mini painting, guys, is that I've always wanted to get good enough that when I look at my own work, it gives me that happy, aw, that's pretty feeling, right? Even when I'm painting something ugly. But there's just a vibe when you look at a well-painted miniature where you're just like, that just looking at that feels great. Like it gives you that kind of happy feeling. Like, like when you see a piece of art that really resonates with you, or something, just a beautiful day outside, or you find a perfect rose, or, maybe just if you're a mom or a dad, just seeing your kids all, conked out, all cute and sleeping, it gives you that happy feeling. So that's what motivated me to get really good at painting, is like, I liked art as a kid, and I saw art that other people did that made me get that happy feeling. And I'm like, I want to get good enough to look at my own work and feel that happy feeling. And that kind of actually dictates like whether I feel a model is done for me. Like if I can look at it and it gives me that happy feeling, whether it's perfect or not, whether it's, got 100 hours in it or only 10, if it gives me that happy feeling, I'm done. I'm good. Like, yeah, generic answers are not Anne friendly because I don't preach them. I don't preach them and I don't like them because they're wrong. Generic answers, like, everybody wants a generic answer, right? Everybody wants the easy magic bullet. Everybody does. We all wish. Some of us spend our whole lives going through looking for a special magical bullet that we're convinced will change our lives. In reality, this is not the case, right? It's the fact is that, like, and the reason that I try to cover so many different topics and talk about other styles of painting and other paint lines and things like that is that, and different brushes for that matter, is that each of you is different and each of you will come to the style and the process that works best for you. Like, and your goals will be different and the things that drive you will be different, right? So the best thing you can do in this hobby is figure out, well, what's going to make me happy? Like, what is it about this hobby that I think will make me happy, right? Like, what makes me happy? Is it the relaxation and the chill time that you get just working on little tiny things and letting all your other stresses go? Is it like me, the urge to create something good enough to make you just look at it and have that happy feeling, the I made this feeling? Right? Is it just completing stuff because you feel like you never get to finish anything in your life, but you can finish a mini? There's so many things that can make you so happy about this hobby, and they're all different for everybody. And just because yours is different from mine doesn't mean it's invalid. It's the most valid for you. Like, it's totally all about that. The best personality tests are not generic, Returnip. Like, the Clifton strengths test is actually the opposite of generic personality test. It really focuses it on your particular strengths and how you can utilize those to essentially live a happier life. Because a lot of us, the theory behind it, and there's a ton of research behind this, and I can't believe I never heard of it before. I'm freaking almost 50, for God's sakes. World, what are you doing? But anyway, the theory behind it is a lot of us play to our weaknesses. We play to stuff that we're told we should do. Like when my dad wanted me to join corporate America because he felt that I was super smart and I could be successful in corporate America like he was. But in reality, that's totally, I could tell you now without even taking the freaking test that's totally wrong for me. But we all try different things, often with the best intentions, right? Like you guys might try to do something like I do it because you're like, Anne does it. It must be the way to do it. But this isn't true. You should try my way. But if it doesn't work for you, don't think it's you. It could be that the technique is wrong for you. Maybe you have to find a different road for it. This is why learning from different teachers in painting can really give you a broad breadth. This is why we tell you at ReaperCon, all of us instructors, we tell you to take a bunch of classes from a bunch of different people. Because eventually you're going to hit on the thing that makes sense to you. And then you're going to run with it. Yes, exactly. There's always more detail. 9mm knitting needle is US size 13. Thanks there, Turgid. I think I can remember that 13, the lucky unlucky number, the magic number. Yeah, right. If we'd had Google in school, I don't know. Google might have just reinforced my laziness in school. It's in a way generic, yes, right. It's like nobody can drill down to the bottom of your particular little tiny idiosyncrasies. But apparently the Clifton strengths test is the best of them. And a lot of high-end corporations and colleges and everything like that use it. A lot of businesses to kind of assess potential applicants. And it's got different sections. Like it's got relationship sections and an analytics section and all sorts of an execution section, and all of these sections have different traits. And essentially, it's just like you never score a 100 and a 0 or anything, right? It's kind of it's a very elaborate scale thing. I don't know. I might take it. I might decide it's my birthday present this year. It's a pay to play, but I'm curious, and I might be curious enough to make it my birthday present. Shadow Raven. Oh, dear crows. But yeah, I see what your point is, Return It. They have to generalize, otherwise they wouldn't be able to make it a test. Yes, that's true enough. But I feel like some of them have kind of done more work to make it, more, I guess the breakdown more customizable. I mean, yeah, but you're right. The answers that it spits out are going to be pretty much kind of. But then you also have to realize that like human psychology does run in tandem. Like even if you think you're the most unique snowflake out there, you're part of a set of people who believe they're the most unique snowflakes out there. So like our psychology does have like each human, like we have things in common with another group of humans that think a lot like us, right? And then we've got our little tiny idiosyncrasies. But I think when you're looking at aptitude and like what way to learn is best for you, for example, you know, what kind of a job structure is best for you? Maybe not the job, like the actual job area, but it might tell you, like for me, it might tell me that corporate job or highly structured job is not the way for me and that I should look more toward a looser job, you know, that kind of thing. It would have been useful to have this information in high school. Let's just say that. I looked at the reviews of the book that kind of like gives you an introduction to it, and they're just like, yeah, I bought copies of this for my kids in high school and I wish I would have had it. Right. And that's a psychology thing. Yeah. See, I wanted to kind of like weave into my already existing knowledge of myself. And because there's always a chance, right? Like through my life, I really have played to my weaknesses at various times because of other people's expectations or because I had expectations of myself that really didn't make sense for my own personal thing. But I believed that, you know, that was just the way to do things, right? Like go to college right out of high school, but maybe I shouldn't have. I might have been happier if I hadn't. If I would have spent some time thinking about what I really wanted to do and working in other jobs, you know? Like stuff like that, I feel like I've done a really good job at this point working with the Patreon and Twitch and teaching you guys and, you know, this sort of thing. I feel like I'm getting really close to like living my optimal me, right? And I'm curious to know if this test could help me fine tune that a little bit. I think that you don't necessarily need an interview so much as you need like to understand that it's a generalization on some level, right? Return up. Like, I don't feel like I need an interview, and in fact, I don't want one because that's my personality. I would much rather have an overview of what each of the scores kind of indexes as, and then look at my relative strengths and weaknesses and kind of use it as a general guide. But then there are people out there that want the individualized breakdown or that they will try to force, you know, I guess a category. I mean, you're always going to run into that. But yeah, I don't know. I am the kind of person who, okay, let me give you an example. I signed up our organization for Constant Contact, which is a mailing list, the nonprofit I work with, because I really felt like we needed a mailing list to do business effectively in the future. And this is, of course, Constant Contact is one of the bigger ones, and they kept trying to contact me, call me, email me, all being like, oh, you need a personalized assessment, you need us to hold your hand, you need us to do this, let's make a call schedule, you know, to help you. And I'm like, no. Like, that's me. Like, I'm like, no. I had to specifically answer the phone once and just say, listen, don't call me. Don't contact me. If I have a question, I'll contact you. I'm really much the don't call me, I'll call you kind of person. I want to figure it out on my own, and then if I have any questions, then I can have a very short call. But I feel like for me, I get frustrated with people who want to, like, you know, take up a lot of my time telling me things that may not even help me. I don't know. Maybe that's me. I get so frustrated. So that's kind of why, actually, that's translated to my teaching style too. And sometimes it doesn't work. And this is just another example of how personality dictates this stuff, right? Oh, it's Packer Raiders. Awesome. Return up. I don't believe in trained professionals. What if I don't? What's the worst thing that can happen if I'm a little off in an answer? It doesn't work for me very well, right? And then maybe I evaluate it and I go, oh, all right. I do believe in some trained professionals, obviously, but in general. But yeah, so this translates to my teaching, because I think everybody's got, like, you kind of teach the way that you like to learn. And so for me, I like to set up a student with a thing to do and then leave them be. But a lot of students want more hand-holding than that. So that can create a problem. Yeah, yeah. Yes, it totally is a raid. Hey guys, we were just talking about, like, personality tests and how and whether you should always have one interpreted by a professional, or whether you can figure it out on your own. And I was lamenting the fact that I found one that sounded cool that nobody ever told me about, and stuff like that. But now we'll get down to painting this NMM. We're going to paint this flat NMM, except I need pure white. I can't paint NMM without pure white. Arg! Arg! Like, so we always want our pure white out when we're doing NMM, because for things to look shiny, you need to highlight them up to white or very close to it. So that's why we're mixing up our pure white. And these are our colors today that I've decided to use. I decided today to use a different color for my NMM gold, because I'm always doing that just to show you guys that NMM gold doesn't need to be a specific color. Oxide yellow and lantern yellow. I decided to mix these two and make kind of an ochre yellow, a very intense ochre, kind of orangey shaded yellow. So that's the color that makes. And then I mixed in a little bit of my rich leather, which is my base, just to make it a little bit more down-toned. Then I mixed these and put some white in, and that's how I got the highlight color, and then we've got our pure white. Kind of mixed them out of order, sorry about that. Thanks, Galifire. Yeah, this is a cool miniature. It's Bones USA. So it's got really nice sharp detailing. She's 30,008 Elf Wizard. She's actually a really nice sculpt done by Bobby Jackson. Hello, good morning. But yes, I promise I will stop deviating into the realm of personality tests and start deviating into the realm of actually painting this model. What? This is a painting stream? What? Something like that. All right, so let's see here. I want to get a little closer because we're going to be doing tiny things, and I want to make sure I'm directly in focus at the level I'm painting at. And really sharp. Good. We're good. We're sharp. So, okay. So normally the principles of NMM are, you know, your upper surfaces. There's going to be an angle that essentially is highlighted just like anything. But then what happens weirdly is when those areas cut away from the eye, in other words, when they're no longer kind of angled toward your eyeball, but they like maybe fall down more vertically where they would be reflecting, or they curve under, then they get a shadow, and then they get usually picking up light from the environment. So if we looked at the leg here, and the light was coming from here, we essentially would have a lighter surface just like you see. And see that dark shadow? So we'd have a highlight right above that dark shadow. There would essentially be a pure white or near pure white highlight going down right next to that shadow, and then that shadow. And then what you don't see, because this is not currently a shiny metallic, but just a matte paint, is you would get reflected light up from the base onto the underside of this leg. You would keep this shadow, but essentially the shadow would become a thinner line, and you would get reflected light. So highlight, highest highlight, darkest shadow, and reflected light. Now, when you've got a flat surface like this, it's all kind of vertical, but you still want to show that it's shiny. So here you have to use stylistic stuff. It's cool, Returnip. It's cool. But yeah, I really enjoy, and this is different for everybody, right? But I really enjoy trying to figure things out on my own first. And then if I really have questions, or I come down to the fact that I just can't do this by myself, then I seek help. So here, we're going to be essentially creating these light and shadow play sections, and we're going to totally be fudging it. Because, let's face it, these are all vertical. Like, they're all just kind of straight up and down. There's not really anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the rules to create the illusion of shine, but it's going to kind of be a faux effect. So what we're going to suggest almost is that each of these cloth sections kind of comes out a little bit and then falls away. So, which is fair because, you know, as it comes out from underneath the clothing above it and her legs are here, maybe that comes out a little bit. You're creating an illusion. And the easiest way to do it, I think, you could do it two ways. One, you could do it like a vertical sword where you do those bands of light and dark. Or you could kind of do the same thing, but use a specific rule to do so. So actually, I need a dark. Let me get my brown liner. We'll just use brown liner today. I use russet brown a lot for NMM shadows, or russet brown plus black, or blackened brown. Any dark brown can do. I'm gonna thin this way down, but not too much. All right. Now you can start with either your highlights or your shadows here. That is up to you. I tend to block in a moderate, like just a regular, my light gold here. I tend to block in this highlight first before I add my really sharp white highlight. So we'll do that. So let's just take this front section and we're going to essentially create the effect. First, we are going to leave the shadow right under that overhang. See that shadow? That's a real thing. So we're going to leave it there. So we're going to create our highlight here after it comes out from under that shadow. And we're going to kind of blend it because cloth of gold, you know, or cloth that is interwoven with like gold threads would be kind of it's not a sharp highlight. It's more understated. So highlight, I'm going to put a really sharp highlight in here, and then there's going to be a shadow, and then it's going to blend back up to another highlight, which is the under reflection. So we've got two sets of highlights on NMM. You've got your highest highlight, and then you've got your reflected light. Reflected light's going to be down lower. It's going to be bouncing back up at the lower part of this from the environment. So this is how I'm choosing to do it. See, and even with that little tiny wobble of highlight, you can kind of see what I'm starting to do. And here, where it's coming over here to go curve up over her leg, there definitely would be a highlight here. So now you've got two bands of highlight up here and a band of highlight down here, which since it's kind of converging on a point is the same. So highlight, 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 highlight. There's going to be a band of shadow in between. There's going to be a bright highlight here and here. And here, because it's going to go up on top of her leg. So it makes sense that because this cloth is coming and curving toward the top of her leg, it would be the part to pick up that highlight. So use your common sense where you can, where you're not working with flat areas. You know where the highlight should be, and you should do that. So again, right, coming over the top of the leg, there's going to be a highlight. Cool. All right, so I'm going to mix in my brown liner into my rich leather a bit and kind of mock in a little bit of darker shadow here. I want that shadow to be a little closer to the top highlight than to the bottom highlight. The reason for that is that it is putting a dark shadow next to a bright highlight that creates the shiny illusion. This is how you create the illusion that something is shiny without it being shiny. But you've got to have that dark shadow. It's got to be significantly dark. And it's got to be closer to the highlight, to the bright highlight, than to any under reflection. So I'm bringing in these bands of dark. You can see that coming in. Hey, Babel. All right, so again, putting in a dark shadow over here. Need to make it a little darker. And your shadow doesn't have to be big. It can just be, you know, it just has to be there. So for sure. So we're kind of doing, you know, like that whole sword thing where it kind of shimmers back and forth between light and dark. But we're just keeping it a little simpler because this is a 28 millimeter. And if we do too many lights and darks, it's just going to look weird. Also, because it is really just hanging at a flat angle, it doesn't really mean, like, it doesn't make sense to me there'd be a lot of wavering. It's also not terribly shiny if it's cloth of gold. So it wouldn't be picking up as much environmental variance as, say, a really, really shiny sword or really, really shiny armor. So this is a thing, is the shinier your surface, the more you're likely to see those light and dark bands kind of alternating. I wish I had my Sergio sword around here, but I don't have them. The model is packed away. So when you see somebody doing a sword with light and dark bands across it, what they're really trying to tell you is that there is information in the environment that is making those bands of light and shadow. So if they've got a sword held up like this, and if I'm doing bands of light and shadow on both sides, which I kind of am, you can kind of see that I'm starting the bands up here. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that maybe there are tree limbs or something up there, or clouds that are interrupting the highlight, that are essentially causing the light to be split, and it's giving you different information. And what I'm trying to tell you down here is, again, maybe there's areas of light that are reflecting up at the sword, and there's areas of dark as well. So the sword must be very shiny. So when you're painting a sword like this with the alternating light and dark bands, what you're telling us visually is that it's a very shiny sword, because it's picking up all these details in the environment. It's the same when you do a breastplate with a lot of shadow and highlight in it. You're essentially saying this is shiny enough to be reflecting like a bit of the shapes in the environment. So that's what this technique is trying to do. So if you want this technique to be successful, that means you have to take your dark super dark and your light super light in order to make it successful. This isn't looking real correct yet because I haven't darkened down and made that dramatic impact on the model to transmit the information to you that it is that shiny. It's not convincing yet. So that's why with something that isn't like super mirror shiny, like maybe just a woven gold thread into this cloth, I'm not going to do all those light and dark bands because this little piece wouldn't be mirror shiny. So that's why I'm keeping it simpler. Does that make sense? Yes, I hate that, Shadow Raven. Mommy, I actually gave an update yesterday. She's 6 weeks now. 6 weeks preggers. She's starting to show a puppy bump. I showed a picture of the puppy mommy yesterday, because Bridget got a nice shot of her. I'm gonna do a little bit of lining up here. This is a really crowded area, and it's kind of visually bugging me. So I want to kind of get these different areas to stand out from each other. So a tiny bit of lining is in order. This is where lining excels, even if you don't generally like lining as a technique. When you are working on a model that has a lot of very small, fine detail, that's just where it can help you to separate out things without doing a wash that then you have to touch up. Yes, I always put them into a plastic mixing bowl with a couple of drops of dish soap in very hot water, and I just swirl them around with my hand, return them. Sometimes if there's a lot, if they're bigger, I might just rub them between my fingers in the soapy water. And then I just essentially run water through the bowl. I dump out the suds, and then I run water through the bowl and dump it, and run water into the bowl and dump it until it rinses clean. Then I know the models don't have soap still adhering to them, and I let them dry overnight on a paper towel. Do not overthink it. You do not need a toothbrush, in my experience. So I do only a very cursory wash, and I'm going to black in this gemstone. And do a little bit of edging right here. There. Oh, ask a question. Yes. Sorry, I missed that, Darstruck. Yeah, I really love this color scheme too. But yes, this is a stream all about questions. Like, even though I'm painting during it, and if you guys aren't asking questions, I'm just describing what I'm doing. But in reality, what this stream is really for is for people to ask their questions and get them answered, and we also paint stuff. Yeah, I wish I could figure out why some people have success with my method and some people don't. Like, maybe it could also be just using the thick paint when you put the base coat on. Like, just make sure you're using a thicker paint and make sure that you you gotta really mix it up. Like shake it up well. Make sure, because a lot of people try, and if your paint isn't mixed up well, then it really won't stick. But like, I just don't do anything extra than that. And as you guys know, my paint sticks to the models really fine. Hold on. I will show you the puppy mommy just because you asked. There she is. So this is our puppy's mommy. Her name is Zamboni, after the hockey term. And she is a goof. She's doing her pretty dog imitation right now, but she is a total goof. So I'm hoping my puppy actually has less of a goof personality, because I like a more serious girl. But I will be happy no matter what I get. Yeah, resin release can be a pain for a Forge World. Once again, I'm going to come in and line this, by the way. When you've got a fine line and you decide you're going to do both parts of it in the NMM, although now it's starting to split down here, so I need to make a decision. Darn it, Bobby, why'd you have to make this tiny little piece? There's this tiny little piece in the middle. I could just leave it dark. Like, there are times when, like up here, there's just one line. But down here, there's actually kind of an inset like there was over here where we painted this blue. But this inset is so very tiny, it's going to be hard to make any color show up in there. So I may honestly just leave it dark. Just paint it black like her pants. Because when you get a very, very tiny area, making the color actually show up there can be very challenging. Yeah, pretty much. Yes, exactly. That is why Zamboni is Zamboni. Yeah, I mean, that's what we found too, Crows, like the original Bones, is just like, if you make sure your paint's nice and thick, and lay it on pretty thick over like any part that wants to bead. If I just kept scrubbing at it a little bit, I can get it to cover. But I mean, you guys have watched me paint on here. I've almost never had to do that. Like, there's been a handful of times of all the models we've painted that I actually have experienced a little bit of beading. But yeah, I find that the washing does help. But yeah, we will not be naming our puppy after hockey implements, but we may name our puppy Cerberus. And if we name our puppy Cerberus, it'll be Sari for short. Sari or Siri. Siri is easy because it's Dog Star too. And also a great Witcher character. So, you know. Then everybody won't realize that our dog is actually named after the Hound of Hell, which is fine with me. They'll assume we named her after the Witcher character. We confirmed a puppy because they did an ultrasound Kodiak because and there are 5 or 6. Like, the only way I don't get a puppy now is if all of them are boys, or if something happens, obviously, that could terminate the pregnancy, or a C-section where puppies are lost. Like, stuff can happen, right? Bad stuff can happen. But we are all hoping for a trouble-free whelping. Okay? Send out the prayers and wishes. Trouble-free whelping for Zamboni and Bridget. Because Bridget has been through some hairy ones. And she really, really would like, just for once, to have a trouble-free whelping. Like, the number of C-sections Bridget has had to do. Not funny. Her previous girl had a lot of repro issues. I think that's taken, Shadow Raven. No, because I never use Siri Grey Wolf. Not ever. Like, I don't like the voice activation. I don't ever use dictation mode or anything. I'd rather just type it. I think that 8 and 3... Yeah, Shadow Ravens is 8 and 3. Yeah, you're right. That's yours. You took it. Yes. Yeah, like, and bad stuff can happen. I think Bridget, I don't remember I think she has lost 1 or 2 pups, but in general, when she has done C-sections, the pups have made it through. But we hope not to have to do a C-section. Like, and this is part of why we're doing this outcrossing, guys, to different breeds, because reproductive issues are typically from inbreeding depression with purebreds. Although a lot of people will tell you different. But in my opinion, again, it's always in my opinion. So, all right, let's do some stronger highlighting down here. Now, one thing you may notice also is that often we'll lose a lot of the yellow at this stage. Like, we're getting kind of, this really could be like bronze as well, the way it stands. What we need for gold is to be a stronger yellow. So I'm going to take this base color, this really yellow color in here. And I'm going to start bringing that in. And if I find that it's really difficult, because of course we started with this color, right? So if I really want to bring up my yellow, I probably want to bring it over this lighter yellow. And that's going to intensify the color a bit. But remember too, these are really skinny areas. They're really thin. And because of that, unless it's a really bright yellow, it's going to be hard to make it pop. So we'll just try to add in as much yellow. That's a little bit better. You can see the yellow there. No, we will not do Cerberus backwards. We're going for Cerberus wholeheartedly if we go for Cerberus. But yes, hopefully the puppies, I'm really heavily wishing for a really trouble-free, happy whelping. Although our dogs do tend to whelp in the middle of the night, so there's a limited amount of happy that you can get. But Kiri was always good. Kiri whelped in the middle of the day. Like, she would eat her breakfast, and a couple hours later, she'd go into labor. I still would end up staying up till 2 in the morning, because that's when she would be done. Yeah, there's some funny voice sketches, that's for sure. Hi, Splat. But yes, so I'm not worried if I name our dog Siri that our phones will activate, because David doesn't use it either. Like, the only time he uses it is to set a timer. But then it's always like, hey Siri, right? It's not just the word Siri, it's hey Siri. So I think we'll be fine. So now I'm going to lighten that up a little bit more, kind of blend in the brighter yellow. We've got kind of stripes going on here. That's pretty good. Although I feel like this is a little light still. So I'm going to bring that in. Darken this down. It's a little bit broad in my opinion. If it doesn't look quite right, then consider, kind of look at it, figure out, maybe I need a smaller bright spot. There we go. Once I toned back that bright spot, it got better. But yes, the only reason I would name a puppy Cerberus is that there's a decent short for it. I have a list. I did make a list of potential puppy names. So I needed to add my bright spot there too. And my bright spot there too. So that is essentially on a flat surface how I would do the NMM. Now let's do that essentially on all the other flat surfaces. I need to do a line in there. It is a male name. Well, we're not calling her Cerberus, though, Pendrake. Her call name will be like Siri. And Siri is fine. Nobody's going to question that. We understand that Cerberus is a male name, but we don't care. Is another way to put it. David wants Cerberus because he likes the Cerberus in Hades, and he knows I do too. Hades, a video game. If you haven't played it, then, you know, go look up Hades video game Cerberus. Cerberus is adorable. But really, David, it just appeals to David to, like, you know, name a dog after the Hound of Hell. What could possibly go wrong? So yeah, we don't really care that Cerberus is a male name. I mean, come on. I know a golden retriever named Harvey, and it's a girl. So, it's fashionable. We're being fashionable. We're giving our girl a boy name. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Cerberus is a good name for a file server. Cerberus is a good name for an aardvark. So Cerberus will be a good name for our puppy. We still have some other names. Like I said, there are some other names. I think a couple of Muse names are still on there. I believe that Thalia is still on there as a Muse name, and one other one. Darn it. Calliope? I think it might be Calliope or the other, but Callie for short, if it's Calliope. But yeah, it's gotta be Greek. Greek mythology or history. That's, yeah, it's Persephone. We looked at it, but Sephi is the shortener, and we both weren't into it. Like, I'm not into calling a dog Percy or Sephi. Like, I just don't like it. Plus, Persephone was a really passive female, like, in that legend, and I don't like that either. Like, she pretty much is like, oops, gotta go spend time with Hades, bye, sorry. Yeah, so she's not, like, as cool. Like, if I'm gonna use, like, believe me, I looked up Amazon Queen names, because if I'm gonna use a female name, I want it to be cool. I want it to be a butt-kicking female. And Persephone is not really a butt-kicking female. I mean, in the Hades game, she's cool. But she's got that mom vibe going on. So, little bits. Technically, Sephi. If you read Girl Genius comic, there is a character named Persephone, and the way they shorten it is Sephi. But it did not win out. Like, we ended up... But that's Celt. Can't do Celt, Shadow Raven. My kennel name is Sparta. Gotta stick to the Greek. So, a little bit of under reflection down at the bottom. On a smaller surface, you can see it actually looks better because your light shadow light alternation. Now, one thing you can also do is to do it a double time. So if you've only got one angle, then you just do it as I showed you here. But here we've got two angles, right? We've got this, and then we've got this also, this angle. So what you can do, and it's a nice way to do it, is to do a highlight here at the cut. So 2 sets of highlight shadow. So a little bit of a highlight here, a little bit of a highlight here, and then you put a shadow right under it again. So you got to do a lot of stuff in a tight area to do it this way, but it does look really good. Yeah, I think so, Pendrake. Yeah, I had Cassiopeia on the list, and that would be Cassie as well, Returnip. But technically, I think Callie. I think we decided we didn't like Cassie. Like David. David didn't want a shortening name that was too close to a normal human name. So anything that sounded like Cassie is a normal human name. He didn't want that. But Callie is okay because it's not really a normal human name. Or it's around, but it's not common, right? He just didn't want a dog with a common normal human name. So that's why we didn't go with the Cassiopeia. Yeah, Calliope. Yeah, Calliope's still in. I like the muses a lot. So I did write down a lot of muse names. I like Thalia a little bit better because it's the muse of comedy. So if our puppy is a goof, Thalia is a really good name. You can name your dog George. But yeah, our names are a little bit weirder. But I've always liked giving my animals mythological names. I had a cat named Pandora. And then, of course, my first kitty was named Ishtar, after the goddess. Thank you, not the movie. All right, my white needs a little bit more thinning if it's not coming off my brush. Yeah, Fenris is a good name. It's a very common name in our breed since we have kind of wolfy looking dogs, Agent Marvel. Fenris is a good name, though. Balto is a good one, too. Reinforce my highlight up here. So you can see how when you start doing that, now suddenly it looks really shimmery, right? Very, very shimmery. I had to darken down my darks there just a little. Yeah, Autumn, I know there's a smooth collie named Autumn out here, Red Lynx. I used to meet her on walks at our old place when Kiri was still around. I remember her because smooth collies are just not seen very much, you know. They're not as popular as the rough. But her name was Autumn and she was a sweetie. And I actually had to stop and do a double take and go, is that a smooth collie? Because it's like they're just so rare. Now you're on the Norse again, Returnip. If you name a cat after God, they actually respond when you call them. Ishtar did. She was as an Abyssinian, she was a very dog-like cat. She would be there at the door to meet me when I came home every day, just like a dog. All right, there we go. So bringing in a little bit more of that yellow and also bringing a little bit more of that yellow in down here. So you can see how that kind of like, the sharper you make your darks, the more shiny it looks. That said, I want it to look a little less shiny, so I'm going to paint my base coat a little over it. To kind of glaze it. I like that. That's good. You're Scandinavian. Makes sense. If you're Scandinavian, you would use Scandinavian. That totally makes sense. I am not Greek, but, well, at least as far as I know. I probably should have gone with a Celtic kennel name, but at the time, the movie 300 had just come out. And our first dog ended up being named Leonidas. So then it was Sparta Shiloh's, because he was our first dog. For Shiloh. So now I'm stuck, but I'm not really stuck because I actually do like Greek mythology, so... Oh, English Bulldogs. Wow. Yeah, the bully breeds are strong-willed in general. But they can be very nice dogs. I know a lot of sweet pit bulls and bulldogs. It's like all coming kind of from that same root, right? Genetically. Returnip. You're so trolly today. You were the most trolly turnip. In fact, I almost think you should rename yourself. I love turnips though, so I'm not gonna like argue with your real name. So when you get to little baubles like these guys, these little drops, all you really need to do is hit a little bit of a highlight. You do not need to do anything more. And you want to take that highlight up to white. These are a little bigger, so I'm going to leave some of my shadows. But when they're just tiny little divots or, you know, rivets or little tiny earrings, whatever, you just need that pop of white because you wouldn't see the shadow at this scale. But you might see a little glitter of light dancing off of these little gold things at the end of the ribbons. So that's proper. And I've mostly done, you can't really see it on here because it's all bringing it up, but there's essentially a white highlight at the top of each of these. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. You're not a serious troll or Quindy would ban you. I have a friend like that. Actually, it's Bridget. It's Zammy's owner. Bridget is like got this willowy, like this blonde hair down to her butt. Like she's got this Scandinavian like willowy look with the blonde hair. Like I'm so jealous. I definitely take after my my German heritage. So I've got a little bit of Celt in there too. I did my my genealogy a while ago, and I don't remember the other stuff. I was just thrilled to see the Celt because that was part of our family mythology. There was a rumor. Yes. Look out, Turnip. Look out. If she starts using the Luca fist at you, you're in trouble. You're lucky she's distracted with work today. But now you can see, guys, how I'm starting to lay this out. How this is really starting to convincingly look like gold. And part of it is that the rest of the sections aren't highlighted in this way, right? So it's the contrast between, like, what part of the thing helping this is that it's the contrast between how we've highlighted the cloth and how we have highlighted the gold. So I try not to make your basing like really light or make any bright elements. Like if you're using like battlefield debris, like pieces of a shield or a wrecked shield, or if you're using a science fiction model and you're putting like pieces of wrecked tank or mecha or debris like that on the base, just make sure they're not painted like super bright. If they're big, you can use small touches of color, but the model itself should always be flashier trash. So like, I mean, with this, she's obviously on cobblestones. So my biggest thing is I can't use a color that's going to clash with her. So like I couldn't use like a reddish brick because it would clash with this pink so bad. But using a color that's really, really different can also be kind of a jarring. If I made this base all green grass, it'd be dicey because the green would be so bright and it would be so different that it might pull the eye. I'm not certain on that, but it might. So if I do grass, I usually keep things a little more understated on basing. Little less bright. And by bright, I mean intense, like vibrant, not light. A lot of people seem to be mixing those terms up recently. I ran into that in my NMM class, or in my NMM class, in my color theory class at the con, where people thought bright meant light, and it's like, actually, no, bright is like bright red. Bright red is not the same as light red. Bright blue is not the same as light blue. Hey, Sylvester, thanks with the sub. Thank you. We appreciate it here at A Reaper. I always say a sub for the show is a vote for the show, and you're just telling the bosses that I should be allowed to keep teaching. Oh, interesting. Oh, weird Cornico. You're probably your own second cousin. Oh, lordy. I don't care. I don't care if you're on second cousin, as long as you help me when I inevitably, like, try to crochet my own dog toy and, like, get to the cursing phase. Oh, funny. Alrighty, so let's see here. I want to get down on this now. I need to bring up the highlights to brighter, right? We need to get our bright highlight. We'll do that at the corners here. We'll also do a smaller one, like, up top, but remember to leave that little shadow where this peeks out from under the layer above it so that it is consistent. Quindy, I can tell that your job is interesting. If Quindy was using, what you're telling me, Quindy, is if you were using your actual real language when you type in chat, you would have to ban yourself? Little touches of white, guys. Little touches of white up there, just really small, because here we're kind of in shadow, or between this and this. So understated highlight there. Yes, the top highlight, the brightest highlight on NMM must be pure white or very, very close to it, Roger. Otherwise, you won't get the shiny appearance. You're not going to create the correct illusion if you don't go there. Biggest problems that I see with NMM, though, is that people don't make their shadows dark enough. You've got to have the contrast between the light and the dark to push the shiny effect. But in general, in miniature painting, and as you get to more advanced in miniature painting, you'll find that this is true on all surfaces. But you should only take a surface up to pure white if it is shiny. And any surface you want to appear shiny should go to pure white. Alternatively, if your light source is colored, like if you're doing like a blue neon or something, then it should go to a blue white. Like, that's why I say it should be pure white or very close to it. Quindy. Funny. So you're treating the stream as a family store. That's what I always used to say in the Reaper store. Like when I was teaching Paint Club, I had to remind myself, this is a family store, no cursing. Had to remind the people attending as well. Except sometimes I would forget. Sometimes it would be a bad day, and I would have to look guiltily around the room to see if there were children close to me. All right, so let's put that shadow in. I'm taking a bit of my rich leather and I'm mixing it with my brown liner. And I'm putting that in right under this, right up against that bright spot. And then I'm fading it in as it goes south. But up near that highlight, then that's the shadow. I'm sure there is a lot of swearing in construction. Just think about it. People are always dropping heavy things, sometimes onto themselves. So lightening up that area there. So make a note, if you really like to cuss at work, get into construction. It's your aptitudes like scale there. Cornico. That's funny. There we are. So just reinforcing some of that dark in there. Making sure my lining is tight. Now I need to do this little diamond thing too. It's funny chromatic. I only know a couple of swear words in other languages. Mostly I just try to keep my use of profanity to a minimum. Like, even as a teenager, I was irritated at people who were, like, using a swear word every fifth word. Like, you know that, like, lessens the impact of it, right? Like, when you hear me swear, I mean it. When I start dropping F-bombs, I'm really frustrated. All right, so let's do a tiny little highlight on this little diamond at the top. Tiny little highlight, see it? I'm just going to choose this this angle if I have to choose on flat surfaces or angled surfaces where I'm, only have like a little bit of room. I'm going to choose a slight angle, so I'm mostly going to hit a highlight at the top on that side. Technically in person, I can see the highlight is on the other side as well. There. And then you can actually see how I'm going to do that. There is a slight shadow under it. I'm going to emphasize that shadow. Yeah, right, exactly. That's my thoughts, chromatic. Compound swears. Oh, Quindy. Were you just chain them all together? Like German? Where you, instead of like putting lots of nouns and verbs together, you put all the swears together? There. So just, again, on a very small thing like that diamond, then all you need to worry about is a highlight, a shadow, and an under reflection. Like, that is the basic NMM right there on that little tiny diamond. Brightest highlight is pure white, shadow underneath, and then an under reflection. And you will successfully convey the NMM. It only gets elaborate when you start doing different shaped surfaces, like when you've got rounded surfaces or stuff with shapes carved into it, like up here on the shoulder. This one's going to be fun. Then it can get a little more challenging. Curved surfaces, rounded surfaces like this, everything's got kind of a set of rules. Under reflection is reflected light, Kodiak. The bottom reflection on all of these is light that is being bounced back up at the metal from the environment. So you have a highest highlight, a shadow right under it, and then you have a reflection at the bottom. And if you've got a number of areas like this angled one here, you go highest highlight, darkest shadow, up to another highlight, darkest shadow, up to the under reflection. Your under reflection is never as bright as your brightest highlight. So if you notice that you have gotten it that bright, you should put some yellow over the top. In gold, anyway. You do not want that to be your highest highlight. Because reflected light is never as bright as the direct light. Bounce light is another term. I call it an under reflection. Because it's on the underside and it's reflected light. But yes, other people may have different terminology for it. For sure. But if you get those three things, you're on the way. You still need to kind of learn to apply it intuitively to different shaped surfaces. But those are the elements you need. NMM is a conceptual technique. It's not a mechanical technique. So you really have to grok it. You really have to understand it to really do it well. And that takes time. It takes time and practice. All right, so now let's keep moving up at some of these small areas up here. But you can see we've gotten shiny. Shiny, guys. We're getting shiny. The shininess, it is a thing. So if you've just got a little triangular bit, like sticking out underneath, like this little area right here, then you're not even going to use like, a top highlight because it's really under something. So you're just going to do, like, the shadow is going to be like right under. You're just going to bring it up to an under reflection, really. And here you can go up close to white just to make it stand out. So there are two little triangles. So we're just going to kind of bring those out with the highlight. Because with anything angular like that, including overlapping scales, it tends to be a shadow, and then the highlight tends to actually be at the point of the shape. So the important point here is just to keep these areas separate. I'm going to put shadows up here because definitely there would be shadows. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of my white into my yellow to just get a slightly brighter highlight down here. Just to bring up that area. And there is a jewel above it with a socket, so now I need to do a little underpainting because I've unfortunately painted in that jewel really dark, like the socket around it is really dark. So I need to use some white to bring out that little ring. The details on this one are very fine. You can see that little ring right under that gem. They're really tiny details. So this one is this model is a real test. I would say this is not a model I would recommend until you build your brush control a little bit. Once you have your brush control decent, this would be a good practice model to get your brush control better. So brush control, just like any other painting skills, should be developed kind of in an escalating pattern. So like you're trying fairly simple stuff, and when you can confidently do the simple details, then you can escalate it and try to do something with much finer details on it. I'm going to put white in here for this gem. I haven't decided what color I want it to be yet. Right now we've got an indigo, gold, and pink color scheme. Violet, red, and blue, violet, which would actually clash, except that we've made one lighter and one darker. So for now, that gem is white. Just to remind me, and I do that at this point to remind myself that there is an accent color potential there. So whatever I do with the little ball up here, I'll probably do with the little ball down here and the gemstone up here. So if I do have room for a fourth color on this model. So I'll have to think about what I want to do with it. But when I do it, it's going to be the little ball here, the gemstone in the middle of her chest, and the gemstone there. So that's enough. Three places is really what you want for accent colors. You want to be able to do it in at least 3 areas, and those areas should kind of go around the model. This one isn't as good because there's nothing over here. If we really wanted to, we could put a little gout of fire, like a little flame in her hand. We could sculpt that. And then we would be able to have like a 4-spot. Not as good, but because odd numbers are a little better, but the 4-spot would work just because it would carry carry the, it would make kind of a triangle of that accent color. And back here, of course, if we want to introduce that accent color, we'll be doing it with freehand. But we don't really have to if none of it, well, there is one up the ad. It'll show up at the top of the staff. So we probably should put the accent color in here if we decide to use something that isn't almost a neutral. Taco time. Ooh, have fun, Shadow Raven. Noms. We went to our taco truck, we have a local taco truck. We went to that this past Saturday. They do really killer quesadillas. I did have to glutenate, but you know. It was still tasty. There we go. So here, again, this is very tiny compared to these big ones. So I'm mostly just going to be concentrating on the tips. Up here, I can do the full progression like I did down here. But over here, I've just got a little bit because of that belt pouch interrupts it. So I'm just going to make sure I get that under reflection there, and that should be okay. So when you are working with a very small area, don't worry about doing the whole treatment. Well, purple, obviously. Green, orange, purple, Pendrake. Although, if you are on my Patreon, patreon.com/paintingbig, for the $10 tier, I just put up my color theory handout, choosing colors for your models. It's new and updated and awesome and 10 pages long with new examples, and I decided that was going to be my $10 tier content for this month. It is really the best, I think it's the best run I've ever done at the choosing colors thing. I tried really hard. I rewrote almost the whole thing. I tried really hard to make it more accessible to people who like really just have never touched color theory. But it does cover things like that. If you have an orange and a green, like what other color can you use? So it does cover that gamut of that question. If you are on my Patreon, you can go check it out. If you are at that tier 3 or higher. I almost made it a $2 PDF, but it's just so long and it took me so long to do. Yes, I talk about using the color wheel. I don't know if I would go with bright purple. It depends on the orange and the green. Goblins typically have a muted orange skin, not a bright orange skin. So if it's muted, then you would have to mute all the other colors. I might use something like Styx purple. Otherwise, if your purple is too bright and everything else is more of a muted color and not bright, then you'll have some clashiness going on. Because burnt orange and bright purple does not look good together. So it depends on how muted your skin tone is. Because remember, all colors kind of in relative to each other, and they have relationships. It's an electric guitar, but it doesn't mean it has to be like bright grape. There are plenty of more like understated electric guitars. Or if you're going to use a bright purple, use the brightest purple only in touches on the highlights and make the body of the guitar a little darker, more muted out. You don't have to make it gray or anything, but at least make it like a darker purple. And if you're going to use a really bright purple for it, use it just in the highlights. These rules can always be broken. But if it's a person who doesn't know color very well, then I usually say stick to the rule until you have a really good familiarity with color, and then you can break them. It really is the learn the rules to break them kind of thing. Just to keep you out of trouble. If you don't mind being in trouble, then do whatever you want. If it was a Gene Simmons goblin, it needs black and white face paint. And a really long tongue. There. So that's coming along very well. More and more shiny is being built. But yeah, if you really are heart set on a bright purple guitar, you could do it, but I find there are ways that you can do it that will make it work a little bit better if your orange and green are not terribly bright. Alrighty, so we've got, again, one of these little diamonds, so we just want to do a highlight. Sometimes you only have room just for a highlight. Like for the little medallions, you know, you might only be able to highlight a thing. And that'll depend on your brush control. And how well the detail is sculpted. If the detail isn't sculpted very well, it's going to fight you when you try to be elaborate on it. So sometimes for something that's not sculpted quite as well, you may want to go more simple. And I made a little bit too much of a highlight here, so I'm going to go in with my base coat. It's supposed to be hotter today. It's supposed to get up to 90 tomorrow here. Try to put a little highlight and a little shadow in there. And then a little tiny under reflection, and that will work there. So there was enough room to do the same treatment I did down here, just barely. And if you manage to get it down, basically, it's good enough. Like, it's Luca Day. Oh, okay. That means I have to actually not be a pokey puppy. I have to actually wrap this up. Dang. Yeah, I forgot. I usually remember to ask if it's Alpaca Day. Well, Luca gets a couple extra minutes to prepare then. While I do this highlight. So there. So remember to get your little interior gold strip in here. And you're good. So yeah, so we did shinies today. This is what we did. Oh, okay. Yeah, 90. 90 is like my favorite temperature. Oh no, Turchin. Aw. Okay, so what we did today is we talked about like kind of the basic components of NMM, how you kind of just make it stylized when you've got a very flat surface that has no shape to it. How the basics of NMM can still make your flat surfaces look like very shiny and like they're picking up the light and shimmery. How to kind of do that, where you place your highlights and shadows depending on the shape of the surface and the size of the surface. And yeah, tomorrow we are going to be back on Ye Old Centaur. I probably need to do before I do more. Yeah, I need to do more green, but I also need to get this get some of this bronze NMM that I'm going to be working on. I gotta figure that out, and I need to fill in areas like the spiral here that probably need to be bronze. There's a kind of a lot to kind of block in a bit on this dude, like just to figure out. So I'll probably be doing some scale work. And we'll be doing some, because I still need to do that. And we might be doing a little bit of this kind of really intricate, like crazy inlaid NMM. And maybe blocking in some more colors here, because I haven't put the bone parts in. I want to make this fur kind of a bone color as well. So yeah, we've got a lot to do on Mr. Centaur. So that is our project for tomorrow. He's progressing, though. He's come along. Like, won't be long. Yeah, puppy face pokey tool would be cute. Because the pokey little puppy, right? Those who remember that book from their childhoods. All right. Yes, so yes, this is what we did today, and this is what we're doing tomorrow. And I hope you all have fun, and I hope that you are going to enjoy your Wednesday or have enjoyed it, depending on how much of it you have gone through at this time. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye-bye.